Good morning, everyone, and welcome to GPA Trading Services live trading class on this Tuesday, October the 14th, 2025. As you know, today is Tuesday, Gary's Market Forecast, or GMF. It's the heads up on what's going down in the markets. But first, we have very specific rules of engagement. Those include the following. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. Always trade with protective stops. Make certain the 4-hour, the 1-hour, the 30, and the 15-minute time frames align prior to trading with the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software. Also adhere to very strict money management rules, which includes never risking more than 2% of your entire account balance on any one given trade. For options friends, never risk more than 5% of your entire account balance on any one given options trade. And finally, all information provided by GPA Trading Services is for your educational purposes. So please give us a moment as we open up the charts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, looking at the dollar index on the monthly chart, high-level overview. Wave 1 is done. Working on this wave 2 down. Question is this over? That last lower low, is that the end and we're ready to go breaking out? Or are we going to continue to push lower and push that wave 2 further down? Remember, the plan is to end at some point and then go breaking out. Where do we go before it's done? Let's look at the most recent price action, going over to the charting platform. And we can see it did what we wanted it to do. It did not break below that 97 area. So we said if it didn't do that, Randy, it was going to go up here and test the Magic Fibo. Look at that. Like a heat-seeking missile. Well, the last 4 days we've been chopping here. So if we can't break above this, then the next level of importance to watch is this prior swing point low up to the current swing point high. Here's my new 618, right around that 98.60 area. We get my crosshair in there. Actually, that's 98.26 area, 98.26. So if we can start breaking back below that level, then it opens the door to our extensions down here. And if we break that, then you look at this low to high, then it sets the tone to come way down here, which would be a new swing point low. So like the last time we did this, we had a beautiful 3-wave ABC correction. We stopped into the parameter in which we needed to. Then we reversed and we took out the 618 back to the downside. You can see it right there, this level here. When we closed below that, kind of set the tone, we were going to make a new swing point low. We did that. Now we're in the same boat. A little different look, but the same result. We went into the area we were supposed to reach and not go any higher, but we haven't reversed down below that 618 level. So if we can start closing below this 618, this little lighter green box, then it targets this area. And if we get down to this area, then it really sets the tone. We're going down to these extensions, which again would be a new swing point low. So are we going to go breaking out, or are we going to get a 618 retracement to then continuation? So is it one of these type of moves where we get to where we're going, reverse, get a 618 out of this, bounce out of that to go up here? Remember that 102 up here would be chaos, where everybody short the dollar. You know, the trades were anything but the dollar, anything but the dollar. So up here at 102, there's a massive short area up here where the squeeze would probably, if we started breaking above 102, make that thing pop. So just because we break above the Magic Fibo does not mean, uh-oh, that wave 2 is absolutely done. No, you know the rule that we're looking for a 5-wave followed by a 3-wave correction, then another break. But this 102 is critical. That is a critical level, not only where all the shorts are hiding out, but where we could see major chaos in this market. And if we start popping above 102, all those shorts are going to get squeezed awfully tight, and this thing could go shooting to the moon from there. That might set the tone for this to be over, but we're not there yet. So, what's the recommendation? No buy, sell to hold. I'm still holding and believing that the price is going to prove its intentions. And right now, rallying to where we agreed it was going to go is not that, right? We expected this. If we didn't break down, which we didn't, we were going to go up here and touch the Magic Fibo. We did put that in our list right here, other week. Expect dollar index to grind higher toward 99/Magic Fibo line. So, yep. So that was last week, and price did exactly that. So no big surprise that that happened. We did not break down, therefore we went to where we were supposed to. Now what? Well, we could chop and grind. Last time we just hit this area, we immediately reversed out, and then we chopped for a while. Maybe this time we chop for a while then, but the critical levels to watch are going to be this 98 area down to about 97.90. So basically 98.30 down about 98. If we can reverse, break below this, then it sets the tone. 75% we're going to visit 97, 70 plus we're going to go visit 96. And what happens if we get down in here from the recent low to that current high? That would set the tone. We start breaking down in this area. Then that would say we got a 75% chance we're going down to 95, 70 plus to 95, and that fits this prior mold over here going to 95.80, 95.30, 95.70, 95.30. So you can see the overlap. So is it going to play out that way? Only time will tell, but there's no reason to believe this wave 2 is absolutely over till price proves otherwise. So in closing, we could see this pullback into here and bounce and go breaking out, get up near that 101, 102, get rejected from that. Maybe we get a big 618 off of that bigger move. Then we go breaking out. But if we start breaking above 102, I think it's really going to start to squeeze higher because of that short squeeze. No pun intended, but the squeeze would make this thing go ripping higher if we can bust out of that 102 level. Now, I'm not trying to imply that we're definitely going to do this. I still think we're in a downtrend until price proves otherwise. And the fact that we rallied into here, it's not proving it's over. Amen? So we're going to watch this closely. Do we get a three-wave correction into this? And this is some sort of ugly five-wave, which doesn't look right because this wave 1 is longer than 3 and 5 is longer than 3. And typically, wave 3s cannot be the shortest. So this still looks corrective. We're still at a lower high. We're still below the Magic Fibo. All of these things are saying more likely we're going to go lower than higher, but that's what we look for. We give you turn-by-turn GPS coordinates. Where are we likely? If we don't go below this to make new lows, then we're going to bounce and go up to Magic Fibo. Well, we did that. Now what? If we can't go breaking the Magic Fibo, we start closing below this 98 area, then all signs say we're going to come down into the 96 area. And if we get there, then all signs say we're going to go to the 95 area, which would be yet again a new swing point low. So be careful, take aggressive profits. We warned you on this. As far as the dollar breaking out from this point, we did get a dip, we did rally, we did kind of chopping now. We're still below the Magic Fibo. We're still below that previous little spike high. So until something gives, we can't expect to go too much higher. We'd expect some sort of pullback. So I'm leaning toward a pullback. The question is this pullback going to be one of these that ultimately breaks to a new low? Or we're going to get some sort of pullback to this support zone around that 98.30, 98 area to bounce out of there to go breaking above? What's it going to be? I'm still leaning toward a little bit downside. Amen? And let's force price to prove itself. If we do get a daily candle body, not a wick, but a body close below this area, then we expect to go down to this area, which would be the 618786 of the bigger move, this darker green box. But if we start pushing toward the lower limits here, then it sets the tone. We're going down to 95.70, 70% to 95.30, which ties in back to the previous low to high, that same target zone. So it seems like confluence of events, Emil, we should go down in here and test that out, make yet another new swing point low. But if we come down and bounce out of this box and break above, and you see us go above 102, Houston, we got a problem. As far as this being that wave 2 bottom over here, and this is the reversal, this starts to make that look more and more likely if we start busting above 102. Got it? All righty. So what does that mean on the euro and the pound? That means more chopping and grinding. We're in the support zone. I've been short-term scalping this at about 100 pips, got a little pip, and I'm looking for this to grind. So I'm still watching this very closely. If the dollar goes popping, this is going to go dropping, inverse relationship. So watch this closely. We are oversold on a daily. So is this going to be where the dollar finally breaks down and this starts to pop up? As I said the other day, if you get into these trades, make certain you're in a position of authority, because this could be a lower high, lower low. And we're kind of testing that method right now. Pound, same thing, kind of testing this zone, testing the Magic Fibo. This still has a little ways to go, but the wick does not count. It's the body. We're still within the zone we're watching. So if this holds, we still have that higher low, and this thing can go popping. Otherwise, we break and close below this area, the door's ajar to start setting the tone. We're coming down to 130 area. All right? Make a new swing point low. But the only way we're going to make a new swing point low here would be for the dollar to go breaking out and above that Magic Fibo, start to push toward that 102 target. Then this would be likely where we're headed with the pound dollar. Dollar yen. Again, kind of big pop when the dollar popped up to the Magic Fibo. We've been chopping in the zone, kind of like the dollar is doing. So bottom line is the same. The dollar goes breaking down and we go making new lows. This is going to break down. If the dollar pops and starts moving toward 102, then I expect this to start pushing toward this 155, 156 area up here. What's it going to do? We shall find out. Pound yen. Randy, I was kind of warning you about this when this broke out, that yes, we could potentially go testing this 207, but be in a position of authority, because this could easily end up with a lower high and push back down. Now we're back into the danger zone where we've been for quite some time. Is this just a simple retracement off of that pop and we're ready to go higher? Maybe. Maybe that was enough. So we have this recent low, we have this recent high, and we need to watch this support zone. I'm going to move this up. You can see the 618, 786 off of that current move. This would be the zone to watch. Is this simply the pop, retracement for this to continue to go toward that 207? Maybe we push up towards 211? Or is this going to start breaking below that to set up the tone we're going to 196, 195? This is a critical area. So even as I was like, be in a position of authority on this, if you're in a position to the downside, be in a position of authority. Because if we just come down here to bounce, then we're likely, and we break the new high, then your target is back at that 207. If we break below the support zone, then your target is down here at that 196, 195 area. And in the midst of that, we're kind of in the middle. We're in the middle of the low to high, stuck between the 618, 786, and from the recent high to the low, we're stuck between the 618, 786. So which way are we going to go? Short term, we start closing back above this 204. Then we'll start targeting 206.10, 206.60. If we break below this 200 area, then we can start targeting the 196 area. So we got compress and compact the channels. We're still at a lower high. You know, my big picture is still, well, we're at a lower high. Until that changes, we do have a potential of some major downside. But that recent pop, we're still holding the 618 off of that, so that's still potentially bullish. So now between the two, we got the resistance up here, and a sandwich in this thing. We got a beautiful sandwich. We got the resistance zone here. Move this back a little bit, give me a little room to work here, and change this to resistance. So you got your resistance zone up here, you have your support zone down here, and we're kind of in the middle. So if I see this thing start closing above 204, I'm going to go for 206, 260, followed by 207 over there. If not, and we start closing below 200, then we'll start looking for the 196. So we got a few hundred pips to the upside or a few hundred pips to the downside, one way or the other. In the middle, if you're short, be in a position of authority. If you're still long, hanging on that, I definitely would have been in a position of authority as we talked about last week. And if you get pipped out, then we'll decide, well, when's the next time I re-enter? Close above this, we go long. Close below that, we go short. Amen? Any questions? So a lot of times, this is what we're in the middle of the markets right now. We got a big sell-off due to the tariff China scenario. I love how whether we put tariffs on China, that's going to affect our markets. It's insane, but it is what it is. And then we get yesterday's bounce. And is it a dead cat bounce where we continue lower, or are we going to go higher and break out to all-time new highs, punch junk euphoria? We're kind of stuck between the same parameter. You got the recent breakout, you got the pullback holding a 618, then you got the recent high to the low. It's below the 618 to the top side, so you got a 618 support, you got a 618 resistance. And when I typically see this, if I'm in a trade in either direction, I'm in a position of authority because this tells me I could go up here, reject and come lower. I could come down here, bounce and go higher. So you need to be in that position of authority. Amen? And from that 205 to 201, I'm up a few hundred pips on the short trade currently, but it's with very strict guidelines that I'm definitely in a position of authority. If this thing does bounce to go breaking out, then I'll just get pipped out for more profit. But I told you last week I was looking to take that short and get into a position of authority. And if you were taking that long, definitely be in a position of authority because I expected we'd get some sort of pullback. All right. All righty. So this is what I'm watching. And if this breaks down, I'll continue to let that baby run. If it starts bouncing and pips me out, we start breaking above this area, then I'm going long. Okay? All righty, let's continue. Let's mix it up a little bit. What about black gold Texas tea before we hit the big markets? And it is breaking down just like we had discussed. How about that? Ian, we finally got it. We closed below 60. Woohoo! Now what? Keep selling the rallies. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. We're going to keep that stair stepping, grinding, grunting, pushing lower. I think there's a good chance we're coming down here to 50. That doesn't mean that we're going to just drop $8 today or tomorrow, but the writing's on the wall, low, high. We finally took out not only here saying we were going down in the low 50s to 50, but we now have taken out the 786, which now reconfirms we're going down to 50s, low 50s, 50. All right. So if you believe that is the case, there's one way you can play this right now. As oil prices go down, you can trade or buy shares of SCO. When oil prices go down, this is the ultra short. So that means when oil prices go down, that's going to pop higher. As you can see, it's been grinding. And since oil's been finally breaking down, this one's breaking out. This would be the play now. If you believe oil is going to continue to decline, one way we could do that is buy some shares of this and look for this to go higher. Fair enough. I expect we're probably going to go up to this 2068 price. That's the 618 area. And if we can start breaking above 20 and this 22, which is the 618786, then the door's ajar for this thing to pop towards 25, 27. Inverse relationship. Oil prices break down. See how we had this consolidation in here? We finally broke down. SCO, we had the consolidation. We're finally breaking out. So this is likely we're going to continue to push higher on SCO because we believe CL, as I've been talking about it for a very long time, is going to break down lower. And as we do, we had this prior low in April over here, and we should make new lows. So with that in mind, breaking below the new lows would put this SCO back in April. We were up here, up in that 20 plus target. So Mr. Tucson, likelihood that if we break below that 51 on CL, this is going to go pushing up here towards 24. And what if we do that? 25, potentially as high as 27. Again, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. How do I play if I don't do futures on gold, on black gold Texas tea? And I believe I'm in agreement with you, Gary, that CL is going to break down. Then SCO is a way you can play that to the upside. Okay? All righty. So that's the plan. SCO goes higher. As the plan, CL breaks down in the coming days and weeks. And that's why I talk about buying shares of this, because you don't have to worry about expiration. But if you want to play a little, play with, douse yourself in gasoline and play with some matches, then maybe you buy some options on SCO. But the plan is for this to go lower so that SCO can go higher. All righty. What about gold? Be careful. Mr. Hartnett from, what's his name, Morgan Stanley, or whichever one he's from, as talking about 6,000 gold, 6,000 gold. I believe it, but I'm just not convinced it's going to continue this parabolic move. And you know about psychology of market cycles. The more parabolic it goes, the more violent the correction is going to be. So yes, I do think gold is going to reach 5,000, and as he said, 6,000. Well, years ago, when the different presidents made different moves in the 20s, I think it was, forgot his name, did the change in gold, and with a rate of pen, it went from like a 60% pop on the value. And then in the 70s, they took away the gold as being the measurement for the dollar. That allowed this thing to go floating on its own, not backed by dollars. You know, every dollar we printed in the past was backed by gold. They took that away in the 70s, I believe it was. And ever since then, gold's been out of control. Our dollar's been on the decline. So who knows? Maybe the new Fed chairman, you know, Powell's on the way out. Probably get some new person, probably as we get toward the end of the year. Once the new Fed chairman is in place, the old chairman is kind of discarded. And I don't see any of these new people that Trump's entertaining doing anything about tight dollars. So print a lot more money, crank up the printing press. This thing could easily continue to go up there. But I just know at some point we're going to need some sort of pullback. And if the thing continues to go parabolic and we start running toward 5,000 and 6,000 before we ever get that pullback, then it's going to be even more dramatic when it finally corrects. I've been looking for one, waiting for one, and we really haven't gotten it yet. Is this the beginning now that we reach these outer extensions and we're ready for some sort of pullback? I'd be very cautious. If you own gold long term and you're sitting and holding it for some time, fine. But if you're short term, just betting the farm every day it's going to continue to go higher, I'd be very careful, extremely cautious to that, because these parabolic moves do not last forever, right? We need some sort of correction, and that would be ideal. We get some sort of 618 type of retracement or just some sort of consolidation like before. We had a big run, consolidation, run, pullback / consolidation before the next push. That would be more ideal. All I can say is any big pullback on gold should be bought. No questions. Any big pullback should be bought. No question. In the interim, I don't mean, well, gold dipped, 20 bucks and it popped up here and is pulling back a little bit, then we should be buying because it went down a couple of nickels. No. I'm still looking for that bigger correction. And you could run from the recent low up to this ridiculous high, just keeps going. At some point, my 618 level needs to keep moving. Now we're up to about 3640 area, 3650. If it continues, then I keep following. At some point, I'm looking for some sort of pullback consolidation like this to set up the tone for the next push. And would I be surprised if this thing just keeps going parabolic? Like I was saying, the more this does this, the more outrageous levels it gets, 450, 48, 5,000, etc. The more outrageous that goes, the more volatile that pullback will become. That is an absolute. I just cannot tell you, is 4,100 now that? Is it 4,200? Is it 44? At what point do we get that violent reaction? Just be prepared to know it is coming and what to do about it. And that is when that violent pullback occurs, that's a beautiful opportunity to add to your position for the longer term move. All right? Silver, kind of the same thing, especially silver. Gold's up about 60% for the year. Silver's up about close to 80% for the year. So silver too is overdue for a pullback. So when everybody thinks FOMO starts kicking in and people that are terrible traders start talking about, Randy, it's time to buy silver. When you're gardener or you're grocery person or you're a DoorDash delivery guy, whoever, starts saying, yeah, Randy, it's time to buy silver, that's the time you should be taking profits and looking for that pullback. But this parabolic move cannot continue forever. It will not. It never does. In no circumstance has it ever done that. The question is, how much higher can it go before we see it? And what is silver doing on the higher time frame? It is recently breaking above all-time highs. This is danger zone. Some people look at this, oh, we just now breaking out, and silver's just going to keep going without stopping all the way to our target zone. Even you, Gary, said 60, 70 is a guarantee. Yeah, it is. But it doesn't mean we have to go up 10 plus 20 more dollars to do it now before we get a correction. Amen? So we're at extremes. We did start breaking above. So I knew it was coming, no question. That's why I said I guarantee it's going to get up here, but I really want to see that correction. And go back in its history. You get these breakouts, then you get a substantial, not only correction, but a substantial, big time potential move. So I'm not trying to say maybe we get to 60 or 70 by the time this euphoria ends. Then we get a big correction down. But I do think gold's going to go into the hundreds, clearly. But I don't see it just going straight up like a rocket. The more parabolic this goes, the more violent the correction becomes, right? The more parabolic the move, the more violent the correction becomes. And go back in its history. The more violent the move, and these are on smaller scales, the more violent the correction is. It's always that way. So be careful. Yes, we're going up here. Yes, we're going up here. But I don't see it going straight up there. And the more we push the envelope here, the more violent the correction becomes. So SLV, we haven't broken out all-time highs yet on SLV like silver itself did. I showed you. But you see that 48? So far we hit a high of 47.44. So maybe this is a good time. That silver and the silver market, and let's look at futures. Silver futures tested up there, but we're back below and right at the level. So you could say this one did break all-time highs. It's just SLV that's lacking a little bit to break all-time highs, as you can see. So maybe this is a good time when SLV comes up here, kind of tests that, gets rejected for that pullback before then we go breaking out. So just be on the lookout. At some point, silver is going to take a little pullback, and because the violent push higher, the more that continues, and I can't say that, well, there's no way silver's going to break, SLV is going to break and start pushing toward that 50, 70 range up here. 60, 70 is our main target. It's possible we could go squirting up there and this punch junk euphoria just continues. Then we get the violent correction, but it's coming. The more parabolic it goes, the more violent the correction. The more parabolic, even on a smaller scale, the more violent the correction. Get it? All righty. So I'm definitely a silver bug. Very bullish, extremely bullish. I just don't like this vertical price action. And this is when everybody's FOMOing, fear of missing out. I got to get in silver. I better hurry. It's going to the moon, Alice. And then you get your big pullback. So be extremely cautious. Amen? And yes, no question we're going up here. But I'd love to see that pullback first so then I can load the boat even more to get up here. All righty? All right. What about the markets? SPX. I look at futures because with SPX, the market's closed. You don't see a lot of price action. And we're likely fulfilling that last little push after the big sell-off, yesterday's pop. Is this going to go breaking out now, or are we going to go breaking lower? And let me stretch that out for you. And you can see that this might be enough because ES, after market close, we got to go to a lower time frame, like the 1 hour. And on that big thrust lower here, we closed around this area. And then we had like a 60-point push lower after the market closed. And now we got a 618 retracement off of that. So this could likely be the end. Right here to that high. We tested that 618 level. So what's the plan? If price can go breaking above the swing point high, basically the Magic Fibo on the 1 hour, swing point high area, then we start targeting the recent high up here at 68.54, all-time high, 68.88, continue. Amen? So Randy, what I was saying earlier is we're stuck between the 618, 786. From the recent low to high, we're stuck. We're holding the support. Like a lot of markets are doing this right now. Well, I'll draw this. Well, let me, since I already have it red, here's the high to the low. We got our 618, 786 zone above. I like dollar index, the markets. We're all in that same boat. So there's our resistance level. Go in here, change that to a lighter color so it's not so obnoxious. So this 66.70 up to about 66.90 area. If we break it, then short-term target 67.34, 67.50. We take that out, then we start targeting 68.54, 68.88. And the support zone down here, you can see is right there. That 6,600 basically is a crucial level. That prior swing point right there is crucial. So if this gets rejected, we make new lows. Then we start targeting 65.17, 64.90. Right? So this is in a cautionary zone that we need to watch out. Stuck between a 618 after the push, retrace, and from the recent high to low, we're below the 618, 786. So when I'm stuck between these, if I'm trying to trade that, then I certainly want to be in a position of authority. This is not the time to get bold and say, well, it bounced here. It's definitely breaking. It could. You might be right. But if we can't go breaking above this zone and we break this low, look out below. New lows are going to come. So what's not clear at this point is this, from this bigger move, let me go out to like a 4 hour. Was this an expanded flat A, B, C, and it's over, and we're ready to continue the punch junk euphoria, all-time highs, woohoo, we're going? Or is this most recent move part of that equation? And This is the impulsive A. This was the B. And this is beginning of a 1, 2. Right? 1, 2. And we go 3, which would put us about here. 4, 5. And we come testing the 6,300 to do our C down here. Well, Gary, how do I know? Well, this is why you need to be in a position of authority. And when I'm stuck between support and resistance, sandwiched like that, and it's not clear which way is which is going to happen, that's why a lot of times I wait for price to prove itself. Amen? And we start closing above. You see us break this prior swing point that we failed on yesterday's push. We got a correction overnight. Now we're trying to bounce again today. If that is the case, and we see this breakout to this high here, the 67, then it's game on. 68.50, 68.88. What does that mean? If you're trading the ES futures, we close above that 6,700 where we tested yesterday. 150 points, 68.50, 68.88. If we can't break above the Magic Fibo on the 4-hour, which happens to be my resistance zone, look at it, lines up perfectly, and we see a retracement and we start breaking below the low, the 6,600, then it's game on to go about 100 points down. Okay? So the long of it, we get above 67, we go on about 100, 150 points. We get below 6,600, that swing point low sets the tone. We're going down to 65. And up and until then, this could be the beginning of a measured bounce where this was the end of the move. And this is the beginning of that 618 retracement extension, and we continue all-time highs. Woohoo! Or this could be the beginning of an impulsive A, B, and we're stair-stepping lower in C. Any questions? Up and until price proves itself, be very quick and be in a position of authority to take your profits. NASDAQ is in the same boat. Exactly. From the recent high to low, we went to the 618 level, kind of stopped, pulled back. So this part looks like maybe we're going to make a new low. But you'll look at this area, and here's my 6 one. Let me, whoops, didn't do that too good. Come down here, open that up. So there's the resistance zone. We've already tested it and failed so far, but are we going to go back and break it this time? We shall see. And then the recent pullback. I know there's a lot of lines on here, but this is why you need to be doing this. The recent high to low, we have the same area, kind of confluence of events, 618786, so it even stretches a little bit further from the recent high to low. This part of my 618, from that high to low, my 618, and we're stuck minus resistance here. And then look at the recent low up to the high, and we're testing and holding the 618 support zone. So Randy, what do you do when you're stuck between 618786 to the top side and the bottom side? Caution. That warning, flashing light. Warning, warning, warning. So if you took this and you're up a few points on the NASDAQ, maybe you bought this dip and you're up a few points there from that low. We're up about a couple of hundred points. We were down bigger. Now we're down less at the current mark now. And sure enough, we go breaking that swing point. by all means, we'll start targeting 25,587, 25,744. We don't, and we start closing below the support zone, then we start targeting basically 24,000, maybe 23,600 down here. What's it going to do? What's it going to do? So anybody out there in current trades, you're up on them, be in a position of authority, whether it was to the downside, to the upside, you're stuck between danger zone. Bottom line, we take out the low, you go short. We take out the recent swing point high, you go long. That's high probability trade. What's it going to do in between? Chop and grind, puree. Wait for people to go long so it can dip, wait for people to go short so it can pop, and just get in a blender and blend it all up. Be very careful up and until we see that break. One way or the other, then I have a high probability we're going to go lower and a high probability we're going to go higher. Amen? How's that sound? IWM. Guess what? It too is kind of stuck. Is that the three-wave correction? It's over, and this is part of the measured bounce. And we got a little 618 retracement off of that. We're ready to go higher. I do think, going back to all of these, I don't think this is the end of the run. I do think we're going to go to all-time highs again. Absolute, especially as we get in toward the Santa Claus rally end of the year. This swing point up here at that 68 area is not the end. We will go higher. NASDAQ. This 25.4 area, and stretch that out a little bit and zoom it in, make it a little bit bigger and easier to see. This 25.4 area is not the end. I definitely think we're going higher. The question is, do we get a bigger correction first to do it, or we punch junk euphoria continues? We're stuck in a danger zone, so be awfully careful in this, right? Break the high, we go long. Break the short, we go short. And I am saying that out here, in my humble opinion, we're definitely going to go to all-time highs again by year end. Both ES and NASDAQ. So that brings us to the Russell. Guess what? Ditto. We're definitely going to go higher on the Russell. We've already seen the targets up here, 256, 265. I definitely think we're going to get there. The question is, do we need a bigger correction first? Or do we just punch junk euphoria continue? But you need to be in a position of authority on these moves because, again, what's the problem? Problem is from the recent high to low, we're right at the 618, 786 zone we're testing now. So this is resistance. Here's my resistance zone. Sound like a scratch record today, but that's current price action. And even from the latest move, you would think we need more downside. Well, that's a swing point. Which one do we use? And this is basically a double bottom. And we're popping and testing the 618. So I would reassess this from the recent breakout area and look for a support zone from that breakout area. So Gary, there's no actual swing point, right? Because you see over here, we got a dip below, we form our support over here, where we resistance there. We were temporary resistance here, then we were support, and we went higher. So this is the prior breakout zone, and we're testing the prior highs up here that we pulled back from. So we're kind of stuck between this prior high, this prior battle zone, and if I use that as a leverage point, you say, well, it's not exact. Well, maybe you use this one here, you go up to the high, You can see where that 618786 zone is, where we tested it. Exactly where we bounced off of, right? Everybody's seeing it. So yet again, we're stuck between 618786 support and resistance. There's no clear sign. Government still shut down. Normally we'd get CPI later this week. Let's see if it's on here. Where is my calendar? There it is. And we come over here to the current week. It would normally be this week on Thursday, I believe. Yeah, core PPI, retail sales. Well, with the government shutdown, we may or may not see this, right? If they don't open up, we're not going to see numbers here. So what's the catalyst in the market? Earnings. Earnings is ramping up this starting later this week, next week, etc. So fourth quarter earnings is coming around the corner here. Third quarter earnings going in the fourth quarter. So be careful that we could see some volatility coming this week, not due to data release, because the market shut down. I mean, the government still shut down. We're not going to see these numbers, but you get the point. So be careful. If you bought any of these bounces and you're up in profit, be in a position of authority, because this thing could certainly, waiting for some catalyst, this thing could come down here and just bounce in here for a while till it head fakes everybody and figures which way it's going to go. That's why you need to be in that position of authority. But whenever I see markets stuck between these type of moves, I'm not real bullish on going long. I'm not real bearish on going short until price proves otherwise. Amen? Break the resistance, go long. Break the support, go short. That's the plan. Otherwise, be in a position of authority while you're in the middle. Any questions? What about our global liquidity? We had a big run. We had a big drop. Is this a pop and a pullback? Same kind of scenario. All I use this Nikkei, which is the Japanese stock market, use it as global liquidity. All I can say is if this thing breaks out, our markets are going to go higher. If this thing breaks down, our markets are going to go lower. Kind of use it as a barometer. That's all I use it for. You can trade it, but I don't. I just use it as a barometer of global liquidity. You know, I tell you that every time, but this is clear. Remember months back when we talked about all of this consolidation, I'll go out to a weekly, and we had all of this consolidation in this zone. And I said, when we see this thing break out, which we expected it would, right? Part of my targets, we said this is absolutely going to go breaking out there. When it does, what would happen? When the Nikkei gets into these extensions, ES would be in the extensions. NASDAQ would be at all-time highs in extension. Dow Jones would be at all-time highs in the extensions. And across the board, we've done exactly that. The Dow is broken out to all-time new highs. And I can go back to daily so you can see it a little bit easier. The Dow went out breaking out into the extension zone. ES went breaking out to the extension zone. NASDAQ went breaking out to the extension zone, part of that bubble top, that blow off top. And no, I don't think where we are is the end of the blow off top. So please keep that in the back of your mind. Blow off top is not done. Question is, do we get a bigger correction first? Or do we just continue this blow off top, punch junk euphoria? We're definitely going to go higher, in my humble opinion. Period. End of story. Question temporarily is, do we break down a little bit further? That's why you have to drill down and look at most recent price action. And Randy, this is a problem. We're stuck. So this is no clear sign. We're definitely going to break it. Yeah, Gary, we got the little tariff talk, and now all is copacetic, and we got a high. We held the 618. We're breaking out. Not yet. Recent high to low, this big area. What does it say? We break out that swing point, then yes, we can go long. We break the support box, yes, high probability we can go short. We got the trade to the upside, we got a trade to the downside, and all we got to do is let price action finish its move of where it wants to break out from. Do we break down to go short? Do we break up to go higher? And at this juncture, it's a 50-50 coin toss. There is no more bullish to go higher or bearish to go lower until price proves itself. Fair enough? So even IWM, we didn't quite finish that move, but you can still see from the high to low resistance, from the recent breakout to the current test, right at that zone. So we're in the thick of it. We start closing above 246, shoot for 250, 251, maybe 255. If we close below 238, start breaking below that, then we can start shooting for 232, 230, 226. So here are my targets to the upside. That's the target zone, a terrible looking box up here, but you get the point. And here's the target zone to the downside, should we go breaking down. So compress and compact the channels, force price to prove itself. If it breaks, we go up here. If it breaks below, we go down there. Got it? Just look at the Dow real quick. It's kind of in the same structure. All of these look very similar in the same little correction. Was this the A, the B, the C, expanded flat, and this is the end and we go breaking out? Could be, maybe. Or on a bigger picture, is this just the A and this is working on the B and we still got the C to come in here before then we go breaking all-time highs again? Which one's it going to be? We shall see, but just use the tools. The recent high, the recent low. We're stuck between what? Sound like a scratch record, I know. 618, 786 zone. And then the recent move after this three-wave correction and impulsive move up, that high to this low, if we break this low, then the door's ajar to start testing this zone down here, which from a bigger perspective is basically my Magic Fibo. Sometimes no trade is your best option when you're stuck between, do we go higher, do we go lower? So what's the motto here? If we do, and watch how this lines up. If you use your 3-point tool, that high, this low, this lower high, look at that. Lines up perfectly with the Magic Fibo. So what would I say? We close below that swing point low, we're going to go to the Magic Fibo. We break above the resistance level, we're going to go up here to 47.6, 47.8. Maybe even go crazy to 48.5. And if we overplay to the downside and we break the low, we'll come down here to 44.2, 44 slash maybe 33-ish. So be extremely quick draw. Even though this looks good, wow, look at that big rejection wick. This thing is definitely breaking out. Not until we get above this resistance zone, then it's all clear. High probability. We break the low, we're going to go lower. Magic Fibo. Any questions on that? All right, let's throw in Mr. Tesla. Tesla has earnings next week. Just kind of chopping and grinding. It is on the 22nd, after the close on the 22nd. So Thursday next week ought to be very interesting, or after the close on Wednesday. But if you look at Tesla right now, I still think it's going to go breaking out. With the tax credits expiring, this earnings is looking back. So when we do that, here's earnings next week, and they're going to be looking back at how Tesla has done the last quarter, and it is a big plus, record sales, even on some of their technology and some other things, record sales, but it was pushed by the tax credit expiring. And then looking forward, even Elon has said, well, you know, without the tax credit and this and that, we may see a drop in sales. So this kind of fits the mold, Ian, James, Randy, Mr. Tucson, Emil, Harold, that we're going to get the pop into earnings. We might drop into earnings and then pop after earnings because, again, those numbers are going to look really good. But that's what happened over here, past tense, not what's going to happen in the future. But I still think this thing is going to go blowing doors to the upside. That is the plan with the Santa Claus rally, plus their good earnings because of the expiring tax credits. Big sales numbers, a lot of things happen there. So this should push us into the stratosphere going into the end of the year. It fits the mold with the Santa Claus rally and their great earnings, which should obviously beat to the upside based on that. So I'm looking for a big pop into the end of the year. Amen? So TSLL, yes, it pulled back. As Tesla pulls back, it's the leverage product. I still own my shares, and I'm looking for this to go parabolic into the end of the year, and then I'm going to sell once we get up there. So again, no buy, sell to hold. I can't tell you what to do, but you know I own these. We talked about this long time ago, and we're still up. We made massive gains back in October when we talked about that. Tesla was going to 500. Consider TSLL on the exact day this thing then next after that started skyrocketing, and we went from below $10 up to 41. So I'm expecting more of the same. We talked about getting in down here, and we're up nicely, but Emil, we still got more to go. So Gary, can this thing pop and go to these extensions? If Tesla goes breaking out, hits that 600 to 700 range, I could see us being up here. But if Tesla just gets back to that 500, 500 and change, then we're probably going to be somewhere between this 34 and 45 range. But if we go blasting off between well above 600 towards 700 or 800, for example, then this thing's going to go ballistic and start shooting up here into the 50, 60 plus range. So I'm waiting for that last push, Santa Claus rally. Earnings coming out should push this thing higher toward the end of the year with the Santa Claus rally combined. But be careful, we could see a little bit of a pullback in the next week. That's typically what it likes to do, and then get some sort of big shock going into earnings. Fair enough? Any questions on that? So again, that is next Wednesday after the close. I'm expecting these numbers to be blown out and get some drift to the upside, and that momentum should carry us into the blow off top Santa Claus rally as a whole and push us into the upper targets And right now, those targets are 528, 560. But I think that's the bare bone minimum. I'm really looking more for the 600 plus range, and we'll see how that plays out. Amen. So that again, looking back, should be very high blown out numbers. Moving forward, then without the tax credit, etc., even Elon said it, we're probably going to see a little lull in sales, etc., until some things pick up. But that we could see reason behind that is we get the big blast, TSLL gets the big blast, and then we start getting into next year, and we have a potential Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. That blow off bubble starts popping, and their future earnings starting in early next year are not so great. That could warrant Tesla coming way back down and TSLL following suit. So I'm definitely going to unload all my shares after we get that last blow off top into the end of the year. That is the plan. Got it? All righty. What about Apple? Apple got a bit of a pullback. A lot of the mags that have been pushing the markets higher are starting to see a little weakness. So could this be an indicator the markets are going to start to drift lower, or are these going to find some support and continue with the breakout and going higher? We just fell shy of that 1448, 261 target, and we haven't reached the 270 target, just fell just shy of that. So is this another little retraced, retest before we break out, or we're going to get a much bigger correction? Either way, be careful. Notice what Amazon, it's testing below the Magic Fibo. Is this the end and we go breaking back above, or we broke below? Are we going to test this and form resistance and get a bigger pullback on this? If the big mag sevens all start correcting, which they've been obviously propping the markets up, if Amazon's still at a lower high, could warrant a much bigger correction. So maybe we get that last blow off top and then we get this into next year. We shall see. But short term, if you see the mag start breaking their magic fibos and get more push lower, our markets might give us a little deeper correction first before we get that blow off top going into the end of the year. Amen. And this was kind of the timing we talked about with those seasonality reports, that as we move into the middle of October, we typically get that pullback. Well, who is to say that pullback was generated by what? Tariff talk. Well, we're going to 100% tariffs on China. What's the alternative? We want to get cheap stuff, cheap crap, excuse my French, at these grocery stores? Or do we let China dominate, where they have magnets, they have all the minerals, they have everything, and just put everybody in a position where they want to dominate the world? Or do we turn this around and we start being our own manufacturers? I am not one to believe that. I would love to have China in control of all the antibiotics, Randy, and we get another one of these Wuhan viruses. And then we go, China, our people desperately need those antibiotics. Well, we don't have any. We don't ever want to be in a position like that again. Ever. So Mr. Clinton, back when he did China and the WTO, was the biggest mistake. They're world dominating. They had less than 5% of the transportation and trade. Now they're own 95% of all cargo, the containers, and they're upwards around 50% of the entire world's transportation. It's insane. So we cannot allow that to happen. And if it means tariffing them to death, where they think we're never going to turn over and just roll over because we got to have it, No, they need us much worse than we need them, especially as we produce manufacturing back in the States. Start producing our own antibiotics, our own minerals, rare earth materials, steel, all these things, especially antibiotics and other pharmaceuticals. So as that transpires, it doesn't matter what China does. Right now, we're beholden to China. And that was a big mistake by putting him in the WTO years back. And it's a devastating effect long term. And you see it, what's happening now. And how tied into that, when we tariff China, our markets crumble. That's insane. I digress, but I think you get the point. So let's continue. Where do we go from here? Is Bitcoin finally bottomed? Or do we need one more push? Right? And guess what? We're still in the same boat, even Bitcoin. You notice how a lot of crypto was wiped out in one day, high to low. We actually went a little too far, so we did get the extension down here. And recent high to low, we reached extension. So we hit a target, and we're stuck in between. But the recent move, notice, we're still in that resistance zone, so I'm going to shrink this up and bring this into reality of where we need to be. Here's the zone up here, 618786 from the high to the low. So we're below resistance. That's a danger. Watch out so far. And then this recent bounce, we're stuck between support of that recent bounce. So this looks like all markets, whether you're looking at ES, NASDAQ, Russell, Dow, dollar index, all of them are sitting the same, that we're just sandwiched between these 618s to the upside, 618s to the downside. What do? Well, we start to take out that low. How much lower do we go? 103, 102, maybe dip below 100,000, right? Everybody see it? And then you can look at this from this perspective. We did reach those targets from this recent low to high. We went right to those targets. Check it out. 1448, 1272, went right in that zone. And recently, from the high to the low, this high to low, we reached the targets. So that's what I was talking about. We hit the targets, we pull back, we hit the targets, we bounce. Now we're sandwiched between. I would not be surprised to see this is part of an A, B, C, and then we go blasting off. All I can say is I do think this, if we do get the sell off, great opportunity to buy that dip, because I do not think this is the end of the run of crypto and its year-end blow off top. Amen. We're still out here, still outstanding. So we have until like November, December area where we start getting stretching that 12 to 18 month run, and we're sandwiched in between. So I'm looking for another dip, then a rip. But hey, force price to prove itself. We break above this 119, 120 area, which basically is that swing point, then game on to start targeting the 30s. And you see the further extensions in the 150. So this 150, 170 target is not off. It's not out of the question. It's still viable until proven otherwise. And if we don't hold the support zone, then we look to come down toward the lower 100s, make a new swing point low, lower 100s, maybe dip just barely below 100,000. But that's going to kind of be the norm, that if we do get the dip, perfect time to buy it. and I'll look to get the call options again. Remember those call options? Looking for Mara and the rest of those to go higher. We got the big pop, took some profits, looking for this pullback, and I'm looking to reestablish another push. I still own my Mara shares, still looking for that to go much higher in the weeks and months to come, and it's holding up well considering Bitcoin's big flop and big decline. Mara's been holding up pretty well. I was even expecting this to come a little bit deeper, retracement. We didn't get it. Well, maybe we still do. So even Mara, kind of do the latest price action. Guess what? All of these are in the same boat. We're testing that 618786 zone as we speak. It's like every stock, commodity, futures, anything I look at, we're all in the same cautionary areas. Do we go breaking out, or do we go breaking below from that recent low to high? Let me remove this for a second so I can put a fresh one off of the low up to the high on the bigger picture. And here's that 618786 zone. So we're stuck between the two. Long term, which means by the end of the year, I expect this thing is going to go parabolic. We still need, I've been calling for, Bitcoin to reach 130 plus. We start getting in the 130 plus, which is clearly where Bitcoin is ultimately going to run. And then if we pop from that 130s toward 150, 170, that's when Mara should go parabolic. Been saying it for months now. We haven't gotten there yet. But Randy, when we do, I expect Mara to go parabolic. Mara's going to look like silver. It's just going to go straight up. That's a crooked line. Straight up. Amen? So what do we need? Is this correction over? And this is the beginning of a 1-2, and we're ready to go blasting off? Do the math. Could be. Maybe this is the beginning of that 1-2, and we go blasting off, or do we get the bigger correction and start all over and do a big 1, 2, 3, etc., like we talked about? And that's going to put us still up into the stratosphere up here, still the plan. But just remember, when we start breaking 130, pushing towards 150, that's when these miners should literally go parabolic. And that is the plan for this thing to go moonshot and blow past the previous highs and make new highs, not all-time highs, but new highs of this range we've been in, go out to the higher time frame. This is what I like to see, this thing go parabolic, like this last little rip, dip, and then the last push. That's when Bitcoin reached a certain level. The miners went parabolic in their profit margins, and that forced the stock to just rip. We haven't had that. In my humble opinion, it is coming. It is coming. So how high do we go with Mara? I'd be thrilled if we just get in the 50 to 65 range. Even if from the recent high to low, we just go testing up in here, I'd be thrilled. But I can't wait to see when Bitcoin hits 130, pushing towards 150, is the pop immediately already into this zone? Or do we start to not only pop to that zone, we start getting to our extension? Amen? But we're up big on Mara. We talked about buying it below 10, $8 range. We're up huge. And we still got a long way to go. Long way to go, in my humble opinion. So hang in there, be patient, and this is likely going to go much higher, especially when Bitcoin hits that 130, start push toward 150 and higher. This thing ought to literally do this again. And it doesn't look like much, but just in this little corrective action, a very short period of time, this thing went up 294%. That's just off the correction. That's not off the lows. So if we do something like that from, I didn't want to move that. I want to move this guy. See if I can grab him. I want that guy. I guess I got to move this out of the way to grab this guy to move it. And we do anything where near that, Randy, from the $20 range we're in right now, puts us about 62 bucks. I could live with that. Certainly could live with that. Amen. Let's see how parabolic that moves. And that's off of this correction to the high. Actually, it's about right there. And then we move that from the current price action of about 20 bucks. That could put us up in the 80s even. Right? So let's see what happens when Bitcoin hits 130, starts pushing toward 150, 170. This thing ought to do this parabolic move again, like it did the last halving. Parabolic, correction, parabolic. Well, I think we're in this stage of the realm. That's what we're looking for. That last parabolic move as Bitcoin runs 130 to 150, maybe 170 or higher. This thing ought to go parabolic. That's what I'm waiting for. Any questions on that? Again, there's many ways to play Bitcoin without actually trading true crypto, where you got to get a wallet, do all that, and a broker, et cetera, et cetera. You can do ETFs. You can do leverage products. We got a nice little pullback in IBIT, expecting that at some point this thing will go breaking out to new highs, clearly. But there's leverage products. What is BitX, BitU, BITU is one of them. ProShares Ultra. It too took a nice little pullback based on Bitcoin. But I do think we're going to the stratosphere up here. So when Bitcoin makes its run, I expect we're going to go breaking towards 75, 80. Like a double. Push toward the 90 up here. Is this over? If Bitcoin dips further, this will dip further. BitX is another one. I don't really care which one. I like them both. Almost identical scenario. 70s, 80s, pretty much a foregone conclusion. 100, likely. So all I can say is, Emil, we get Bitcoin to push down below toward that 100,000 or lower. This thing ought to dip into maybe the 40s. Anything lower than 40, back to truck up. And should we see that quick dip, you buy some more shares if you don't already own it, and look for this thing to do a double, maybe potentially a triple, depending on how low we go. Because I don't think this is over yet. Meaning Bitcoin's topped out and that's the end, and we're going into crypto winter. Still think we're going to get a big push by year end. That's still the plan. So Ethereum, still kind of holding in this zone. Could we go lower? Sure. Bitcoin goes lower. Ethereum probably go lower. But this does look like a 5-wave up, and this may be that 3-wave correction is over, and we're just starting to break out again. But that bigger picture, you can see the targets. We reached those initially, but you go back further in time from the all-time high to the correction, took out the 618, took out the 786. So it is screaming that Ethereum, before we're done, is going to get at least to 5,500, 6,000. If we get that overreach, where we start pushing towards 7,000 or more, then I think our ETHU is going to go parabolic yet again. And this is part of that correction zone. But I do think we're going to go higher, and that would set the tone. Ethereum starts reaching 5,500, 6,000. We should be up here in the 200 to 250 area. We start pushing beyond 6,000, pushing that 7,000 or higher. We'll probably be pushing the 250 to maybe 300 zone. Haven't given up on this. I've rinsed and repeated this thing multiple times. When before the splitsy here, where you got one share for 20. So for every 100 shares, you then had a reverse split for 5 per 100. I didn't like that, but even with that, I'm still up big again. But back here when it was $4 a share, went up to 12, took that money, reinvested, market's money, up big again, a little bit of a pullback. I warned you about this, that this wasn't just going to keep going straight up, that when Ethereum recovered, went toward 4,000, we'd at least go between that 160 to 200. We did that exactly. So when that was hit, I took a little profits, and I'm buying some more down here to look for the next push. So Emil, what if Bitcoin gives another big push lower and we see Ethereum start pushing back into the 90s, or maybe absurdly comes back toward 80? Then I'm looking to buy that dip, right? Where does that zone hit? On a recent low, let me bring this up a little bit. From that recent low up to the high, could we possibly get near 80? That's a 618 area. Maybe. Maybe. I'm not trying to say it's definitely going to do it, but if we start retracing into that zone, then why not? Be a beautiful thing. Let me get this little blue box out of the way. Take everything but the blue box, right? There it is. So, yeah, we get a dip. Good opportunity to add to your position for this thing to go ripping. And again, we see Ethereum, just like I said here, when it was covering from the lows down in April, and we said it rallies back toward 4,000, this would go to 160, 200, just like that. Now we got another correction. And what are we looking for? If we get a little bit lower push, I'm going to add and look for this thing to start pushing back into 200, 250. That's when Ethereum hits that 55, maybe 6,000 range. We break above 6,000 and start pushing towards 7 or higher. Then that pushes us toward that 250 to 300 zone. Amen? All righty. I think you get the message. So, any questions on any of that? Anybody have any symbols they want to review? Remember, in NinjaTrader, SLV is just going parabolic, but I am looking for that correction. TSLL, remember, you can use the MPA PE5 version 5.0 software in NinjaTrader. Still looking like we might get that Tesla pullback a little bit deeper into earnings, and then the big pop. So this might be a good opportunity as this pulls back, any type of pullback on TSLL, Tesla, into next week. Might be a good opportunity to add to your position for this pop going into the end of the year. But that is the plan. And this party hadn't even gotten started yet, Randy, from the recent high to low, the 618, 786. All the target zones we look for are right here in. You go into the drawing tools, come down here to MPA Fibonacci retracement, MPA Fibonacci extensions, just like we show you every day on the charting platforms. It's available in NinjaTrader, part of the software. And yes, when we start closing above 28, it gets interesting to open the door to 46.51. So how do we get up here? Tesla's got to go ripping 600 plus, even push towards 700. I think we'll be up here. And I know it's a big move because Tesla's sitting right now at 4. So we need to get a big push. We have to start pushing above 650 into the upper sixes, maybe push towards 7. Then I think certainly TSLL will start pushing into the 40s. And we're only at 18. Even if it's just a big disappointment, we're already up huge and we're looking for more to come based on that last move. Like in October, went from below 10 up to 40. That was over here. That was that move right there. And now we're looking for the next big push. So yeah, I'm watching it very closely. The other one that you got a good opportunity for a dip is Coinbase and CONL. CONL got a nice little dip because of crypto. If Bitcoin dips further, this will dip further, and then we look for the year-end rally. So this will be something I'm watching as well. We talked about it over here, and it went up massively, got the correction, reloaded, added some position down here, still looking for more upside. So the recent high to low, we start getting above 55, the party starts getting interesting to start shooting for 78 to 84. And off the recent high to low, we start, reason we're so bullish is because we got above that 618786 and we haven't reached the 83 to 91 target yet. It's still outstanding. Then from the recent low to high, we're holding a 618 zone. So you can do rinse and repeat this thing to death and put lines all over your chart. But you go to drawing tools, you go down here to Fibonacci retracement, and from the recent low up to the high, you can see we're held in that 618786 zone, started to rally. We're just retesting the Magic Fibo, that dark line right there, orange line. So this is typical that you come down, you break, come back and retest to start ripping, but you can see why this is still a bullish setup. Big run, big retracement, held the 618786. Now we're just retesting. Magic Fibo starts to shoot what? Again, when we start getting above 55 area, that's when it starts getting interesting to open the door to 7884. And that ties in confluence of events with this prior level that we never quite reached. So in my humble opinion, this guy is going to explode higher by year end as Bitcoin runs to 150, 170 and higher. Coinbase is going to run, and when Coinbase runs, CONL runs 2x of that. That's why we could easily be up here. And both these target zones have been acknowledged from that high to low. Took out the 618786. We never quite reached it yet. Yes, we got a pullback, but that's typical on a run like that. You get a 618 retracement out of that. And what does this look like to me, Randy? A little nested 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, getting us up into that blast off. Amen? Any questions on that? So can't tell you what to do, but this is based on Coinbase being the underlying, and we expected this to go blasting off. Again, from the recent high to low, we haven't reached those targets yet. Still think they're outstanding. And if we see Bitcoin rip to 150, 170 or higher, I definitely see us being in the 400, 500 range, which right now we're in the 300 range. And if this thing blasts off toward that 1618 extension, then where does that leave CONL? If it mimics it, then this thing could be up in the hundreds, or at least near 100, either scale. Puts us near the 100 plus or 100. That's why I'm conservatively looking at this 70 to 80 range. based on those extensions. Amen? All righty. And even the weekly time frame. That's why the daily's topping over. The weekly, I expect in the coming weeks as we go toward the end of the year, I'm looking for this to cycle up, that to cycle up. Like the last time we got a cycle, what did it do? Went down here from $9 all the way to $70. And now we're rating over the next several months, going into the end of the year. We're going to see this thing cycle up, in my humble opinion, and this thing is going to go blasting off. That's the plan. All righty. Any questions on that? Did anyone take advantage of, let's see if I can place it here. Did anyone take advantage of our UVXY pop that we talked about? UVXY. So I closed it on Friday, Emil. Got the pop. Remember, we talked about this. You get a pop, you take it. If it pulls back again, maybe we'll reload again. But I'm looking for this to go popping again as we get toward the end of the year. So maybe we get that little pullback and then we go blow off top. This thing will come down again. Then when we get to next year, and Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey. I'm expecting a massive pop. When the markets sell off hard, which is kind of targeted for next year, we're going to get that pop. But this thing was a beautiful move. I was able to get in at $1. I bought again like at 70 something cents, and it popped to 157, 160. So I was able to 50 to 75%, in some case on the lower one, doubled. That's why I got out on that pop. You can see it over here. I actually added it to my chart. I do believe I have it in here somewhere. Yeah, up here. UVXY. So, wasn't much of a pop, but it was enough to warrant, let me go back to the daily. That pop was enough to warrant taking some profits. And I'm looking to rinse and repeat because I don't think this is quite over. And even if it does come way down here and just grind lower, it's not a long-term investment. This is short-term during these pops. But last April, remember we talked about that? We got a big pop, and I expected to see a pop, and that was enough for me to take profits because I knew it'd probably pull back again. And if our markets continue to rally like we're talking about, then this thing is going to pop again going into next year. So that's kind of the plan. I use this, take advantage of some of these volatile moves. When the markets get a little unsettled and you see a big drop, this thing goes a popping. Ultra short. So when the markets go ripping lower, this thing goes ripping higher. Amen? All righty then. Any other symbols? Did a quicker review today. But let's go ahead and recircle the wagons and see what we got. Again, ES markets stuck between a rock and a hard place. As you can see, go out to a 4-hour. We're watching this level very closely. We're stuck between support. We're stuck between resistance. So the plan is we break above, we go long, we break below, we go short. Pretty simple. And it's set up. You got resistance, you got support, force price to prove itself. If this is the beginning of a breakout, then when it gets above this resistance zone, basically above the Magic Fibo on a 4-hour chart, then we go long, shooting for 67.30, 67.50. And as we take that out, we then start focusing on the 68.50, 68.80, which you can see this is the same area is my 618786 bigger resistance zone on the bigger move. And that's why if we do pop this and we go up in here, then it sets the tone for these targets up here. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Up and until then, if you bought this bounce, I'd definitely be in my position of authority. So, bottom line, use arrows. You break above here, we're going there. Right? And the short term, we break above the magic Fibo, we're going there. We go there, likely going to continue to go up there. And I definitely think we're going to reach these targets. Part of that blow off top by year end, I definitely think we're going to blow off and reach these tops minimum up here. So the only question is, Mr. Tucson, is this the A, the B, and we need a C before we do it? Or is this the beginning of that A, B, C already? And this is a 1, 2, and we're ready to go blasting off. So scalpers, we start closing above that 6690, 6700, right? We go above 6700, we go long, shoot for 6850, 6888. We start closing below 6580 in that swing point low. We start shooting for 6500. Maybe we come down to 64 and change. But what if, William Bruce, this is the A, B, and this part of a little 1, 2, and we do the breakdown lower? All I can say is we come down into 6400 or lower. Beautiful time to buy, because we're still going to go back to 68, 69 area. 68.80, 68.50 is a given. Maybe we push the limits towards 69. That would be a big move. We come down to 64, we go to 69. Big move. But this is, in my humble opinion, going to happen. By year end, we're going to get that blow off top, and this 68 is not it. So any big dips should be bought. Amen? NASDAQ, stuck in between the same area. We break out above, we go long. We break down below, we go short. And what if this plays out where this is like a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We finish this bigger A, B, C. And we do come down into, say, 23,000 zone or somewhere like that. Back the truck up, going toward the end of the year, because we are going to go blasting off into 26. Seems like a logical target. First target, 25.5, 25.7, 26. No matter how much we dip, we're still going to go up there. Amen? And again, that's my humble opinion. God-given talent to read and interpret price on a chart. When we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, I don't typically make big moves. I force price to prove itself to then set the tone for where we're going. And I use my extensions. Amen? And you, of course, use your software. And what are we looking at? Actually, this one here. There's the NASDAQ daily depressurizing. This is why I'm not convinced we're definitely going to go blasting off yet. What would I personally love to see, Emil? We let this continue to go lower, get that last little push. Let that be the A, the B, and the C. We come down, push lower. Daily's oversold. And I buy that PAI hook. Could we get the daily to do that? My weekly has a hook, has a cross. Not the steepest of slope, not the biggest angle in separation, but a weekly hook and a cross, and my daily hadn't cycled yet. That's why I was saying be careful that if we do get the dip, ladies and gentlemen, more likely than not, but hey, that's why I force price to prove itself. If we do get that, salivate country when the daily gets oversold and the PAI hooks back up. You can do click ready to trade mode, go into expert advisor, properties, and you set your parameters and you come down in here and you say use trigger short, no. Use trigger long, yes. Any trigger's a good trigger. And what is a trigger? It's the little trigger signs that we get, little trigger signs that we see on the different time frames. You see the triggers all over the place. Trigger short right now, trigger long, but that's what I'm looking for. And I can come to my daily time frame, click ready to trade mode, and this baby will sit here for days, a week, whatever, till this thing gets oversold. This gets oversold. The PAI hooks, you get your little trigger. PAI hooks, you get your little trigger, and that's what we're looking for. Buy the dip and expect we're going to go to all-time new highs again. Same thing with S&P. Check it out. We have the weekly turning over. We have a daily pushing lower, so we could do the same. Is this a guarantee? Bet your life that this thing's definitely going to break down? I wouldn't say that. But based on the hook and the cross and the probability this thing cycles, I'm looking, Randy, for that last push, 3-wave. And then we set this to buy that dip. So it's the same as this one. Expert advisor, properties, set your parameters, go in here to, right there, trigger long. Well, this is a bracket pending order. That's why I got the wrong one on here. So let me go over here and do my instant order one. That one right there. Switch it up. So now I can go into the expert advisor properties. Obviously, I need to set this differently for the number of pips because this is the S&P. So we need bigger numbers in here. Not that many zeros and some zeros in there. And then we come down here to buy trigger long, yes. Trigger short, no. Slingshot, no. Slingshot short, no. I just want a trigger long. That's all I want. What do you want for Christmas? Buy my trigger long. And then we go in here, ready to trade mode, and it'll sit here for days, weeks, whatever it takes for this thing to get oversold, and we look for the next push higher. Amen? So, back to the charting platform. Are we going to go breaking out? It is what it is. So we break above, we go long, we break below, we go short. And if it is the short, like we've been discussing, if it is the short that daily gets oversold, we get the dip in the NASDAQ, we get the dip in the ES, we get the dip, then we look to go long into the end of the year. No matter how much, Harold, we dip down, still think there's a beautiful opportunity for this thing to go 25.5, 25.7, 26,000. Even if we come all the way toward 23,000, yes. No matter how much the dip, I'm going to buy it for the rip. Year end, that's what we're expecting. Got it? All righty. Again, that fits the mold for NASDAQ, ES. Stuck between a rock and a hard place. If we break that level, then what do we shoot for? New all-time highs. If we break support, what do we shoot for? Back down here, 64, maybe lower 64. The lower we go, the better. So if this thing breaks down in a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe we get down here to 6,300, for example, that is salivate country for us to go blasting back to 68, maybe 69, even if we're down here in 63. If price says, nope, that was the end, that's all the correction we needed, then we start taking out the high, we still shoot for the lows, right? So I'm just hoping we get this just so I can take that into the end of the year and have hundreds and hundreds of points on ES. And NASDAQ will be potentially thousands of points. If we break down to 24 or 23, somewhere down in that area, then I still think we're going back toward 25.7, 26 or higher, which would be thousands of points higher. So I'm going to leave you with that. No matter how much, if we get the pullback, no matter how much it dips down in here, as Warren Buffett said, when people are when they're all greeted out, that's when you sell. And when they're all fear, that's when you buy, contrarian. When the markets are rolling, that's when you sell. When the markets are dipping and everybody's fearful it's going to crash, that's when you should be buying. So that's why I'd love to see, a little tariff talk. All we got to do is Trump to say, yep, they're not responding. We're going to do a 200% tariff. This thing will come down in here, Randy, and then what? Buy the daylights out of that thing. So I won't say that this can't go breaking out now, because the September going in October, we're expecting a correction. Is that it? Maybe. That's why I do this process. I force price to prove itself. And we got the high, we got the low, we got resistance, we got the low, we got the high, we got support. We're stuck in between them. So the most logical trade is we go way down here is to buy, because we're definitely going up here one way or another, whether we dip to rip it or we just start ripping it, we're going to get up there. I just don't want to buy right now expecting it's going up here. I'd like to buy down here to give us a lot more room to play with. But it is what it is. We start taking out the previous high, we're going to these highs. We take out support, we're going to these lows. Pretty straightforward and simple. What is the low that we could potentially go towards? I mean, is it possible we could reach 23,000 down? See the Magic Fibo? It's below 23,000. It's between 22.6 and 22.8. But if we kind of grind down here and this thing's still sloping upward, maybe we come down and intersect this down here toward later October, toward November. Then November, December, we go blasting off? Maybe. Just be careful, because when I see this, right, we're looking at resistance, we're looking at support, we're slammed stuck right between them. Then you come over here to the software and you look at NASDAQ and you say, well, my daily's still pointing down. My weekly is turning over. It's not the biggest, like here, we had steep slope, angle separation. That screened we were going to go lower. And what else was that? That was a monthly showing some signs of a hook and a cross. Eh? Got a hook, got a cross, we had steep slope, we had angle separation. When I see that, that means the lower time frame, in this case, that was the monthly to the weekly. The weekly would cycle. That was that dip beautifully. So right now, we don't have the steep sloped angle separation, but it still is a hook. Still did cross green below the red. So this is why I'm very cautiously watching this. Position trigger, why is that? Because my weekly and daily in line position. Look at the monthly. It's just kind of flat, still up. So this is why on the bigger picture, I don't think we're ready for Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey, and we get the big crash. I think we are going to go on to make all-time new highs again for that blow-off top. And this monthly at best is going to do another little slingshot, but we're still up. but my weekly is turning down. That's why I would salivate, Emil, to get this into oversold territory, to buy it. Sounds good to me, especially when I see that. So I click it back, ready to trade mode, ready to buy the daily. When it reverses, I watch the price action, stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm not interested in going long right now. Yeah, it bounced earlier, but I want to force price to prove itself by proving technically that we're going to go higher. Otherwise, would I be surprised to see this thing go lower? No, I want it to. I dare it to, right? Hey, NASDAQ, I dare you to go to 24,000 and lower. Even better, sell off real hard. Another tariff. We're gonna charge the Chinese 200% tariffs, and we get another bloodbath down here. What do? Buy the daylights out of that thing. Amen. All right. So what's my realistic? We start breaking this support zone. Your realistic target's going to be 24,000, 23.9 area. And we break that. Then we start looking at 23.5, 23.6. And that's where it gets interesting. If we can get down below 24,000, and this baby is sloping upwards over the next couple of days or so, and we start pushing through a little bit deeper in October, right, Randy? And then what? Boom, shakalaka. We go ripping toward 26. 25.5, 25.7, 26. Do I think we're going to get here? Yes. Harold, we're going to get there. I do not, under any circumstance, think that is the end at that high, that 25.7 that we just recently get. No, 25, what is that? 25.4. 25.4. I do not think that that is the end. I'm just very cautious of this thing breaking out now. It's definitely going to go up here, in my humble opinion, by year end. But I want to see that last push in the software to push into oversold on that daily sets up beautifully. I mean, gorgeously. So I hope I see it. I'm just going to leave that in ready to trade mode. So it could take today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. It pushes lower, it pushes lower. That's when we buy. And no matter where the low is, if it's at 24,000 or a little bit lower, maybe we go toward the upper 22s into the low 23s. When that daily reverses, that's when I'm looking to buy. What if it doesn't and we just start slingshotting higher and we don't get it? Then you go back to the charting platform and we start closing above this swing point up there, that 25 area. Then we shoot for 25.8, 25.5, then 25.7, then 26. So zoom in on this so you can see what we're looking at. Again, we're stuck. When I see a weekly turning over and a daily still pushing, I'm not convinced this is a breakout, but the daily could certainly slingshot higher. That's why I force price to prove itself by closing above the battle zone. Then we target the 25.8. So we start closing above 25. What is that swing point right there? 25,000. Then we shoot for 25.5, 25.7. We got to take that swing point out. We got to take this resistance zone out. That happens, you know where to shoot for. 25.5, 25.7, 26. We don't hold the support zone. We start targeting 24, maybe 23.6. And if we get an overkill to the downside, as Mr. Trump says, President Trump says, we're going to tariff the Chinese 200%. This thing will go plummeting, and then we just back the truck up. So no matter what happens, down to the downside, I do not think this is the blow off top is done. We will go higher, and any pullback should be bought. Amen? ES, ditto. We're stuck in there between the rock and the hard place. We break out, we shoot for higher targets, we break down, we shoot for lower targets, and then Harold, if we get what we're looking for, and we do get the push lower, and we start pushing toward 65, 64, or even lower, I'd love to see this thing go ripping down here, and this is sloping upwards. So I'd love to see this thing kind of chop down and then blast off. So 6,400 or lower, man, that is back to truck up city for us to go where? Back up to 68.50, 68 maybe, and 69 up there. So again, I want to reiterate, no matter how low we go, get a hold of it as we go into the end of the year, blow off top. I do think we're going to make new highs. Even IWM, kind of testing the zone. I definitely think we're going to 250, 251, and even the previous one, 256, 260. This is where I think that blow off top's going to go to. So even if we get a bigger decline down in here, salivate country to go along. So force price to prove itself. Are we going to go breaking out? Well, we've been seeing a series of lower highs, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower high. So this isn't a given. It is a given we're going to reach 250, 260 up there, certainly. But do we get the bigger correction first? Well, we come over here to the Russell, and we kind of look at the same boat. I don't know how that got moved over there, if I can grab it. Allow me to grab it. Otherwise, I'll just leave it. I'll just do that another day. But we look at the weekly. This one isn't hooked and crossed anymore. It kind of hooked and now it's flat, kind of flat. So this one's a little bit more iffy, not quite as clear, but I still would like to see that daily finish up. So Emil, what do we see here? If my little engaged slingshot does not go on to break new highs and we stuck in that little resistance zone and we fail and this baby disengages, then we're going to get the same. And man, if we can get this to get oversold, and then the PAI hooks up, we get a little A, B, C, and we come back down off of that cycle. Talk about salivate country to buy that dip. So back to the charting, back to the software, stuck between a rock and a hard place, up and until we clear this hurdle, then I go long. Until then, if we break the low, then we could go short a little bit. But bottom line is, if this thing gives me that high, low, lower, low, I'm looking for buying opportunity when the daily bottoms and reverses, and we'll shoot for that 250 to 260 range. And why 250? On the smaller scale, that's my target here. On the larger scale, whoops, that's my target there. Okay? And I definitely think we're coming up here before we're done. So with that, I'll say good luck. God bless you. May the pips be with you. I'm humbled and honored to be your mentor and instructor. So join us again tomorrow. That's it, and that's all.